What's up, everyone? Thank you for tuning into this episode of the Off the Battlefield podcast. And there is a growing chorus that is saying veterans VA disability benefits are absurdly generous, and I disagree with them. And I'm going to be talking about that in this video. Thank you for tuning in to this episode of the Off the Battlefield podcast. Like, subscribe, comment, share, hit that notification bell. Share this with someone that can utilize this information. Okay, we are veterans serving veterans, and we just want you to have the information, keep you up to date, benefits and resources that you have earned and deserve. Thank you for your service to our country. Okay. So, a growing chorus is screaming and yelling and calling for cuts to veterans affairs disability benefits as a way to save federal dollars, a move that ignores the very real cost of 2 decades of war and could cause irreparable harm to generations of veterans. Many experts are talking about this. So hey, I got an idea. Let's send all of our men and women to war, right, for selfish gain. And let's send them to war, and let's have a whole bunch of people that are 10 feet in the ground and that are not here, but let's make it impossible. And let's cut back their benefits, and let's make it already harder than it already is. You're saying it's absurdly generous. Well, let's step back a minute. Okay. If you serve 3 years, right, you do the math on what you get paid, do the math on that, and then you get out after 3 years. And then you have to face the growing fact of coming out and getting a civilian job and making that transition. Okay, not everybody's going to do 20 years. Now let's go a little bit further. Let's say that you hurt your ankle or your back, and that's the only thing that happened to you. Well, your back could be a pretty significant injury, okay? And let's say you only get the average rating of 10 to 20%. Do the math on that. What amount of money is that per month, okay? If you get 10%, it's like a whopping $172, okay? If you get 20%, it's about $320-ish dollars, give or take, right? So now that back injury is preventing you from becoming a worker at a warehouse. Maybe you're not an administrative person. Maybe you can't sit down for many hours. How about if you were a mechanic and that's the only work that you've known, and that's what you did as a primary MOS or rate in the military? Now you get out and you can't bend over and work on engines and do those things because of your back. And now you're having to take time off of work, lose income because of that back injury or that ankle injury, right? Or you start shifting weight from that left ankle to that right ankle, and now your right ankle bothers you. But remember, you didn't complain while you're in for that right ankle. So now the VA makes it, how are you going to prove that? Now you got to file it as a secondary condition or prove how left ankle impacts right ankle. What I'm trying to say here is that a lot of people are impacted. Okay. You are impacted. It does take time away from you. And the next thing is that you willingly said, out of any other job, you willingly said, and maybe first responders, but military here in America, you said, I am willing to do whatever I need to do. I'm willing to raise my right hand. I'm willing to sacrifice my life. I'm willing to leave my family behind. I'm willing to do all of that for the sake and freedom and benefits, of this country that I live in, right? And people do it with pride, and they do it with honor, and they raise their right hand, and they do it for a number of reasons, okay? But you served this country. So if you have something, my problem is it's absurdly generous. Well, okay, chorus that is crying that out. Let me ask you this. How about while we're on active duty and we don't get the help that's afforded? Do you know the chastisement? Do you know the blame that we get when we go to sick call? Do you know the look that we get if we go to sick call and stand in that line because an injury happened? And the majority of veterans suck it up and they just deal with it. Many veterans don't even have ratings for claims and for conditions that they should have because they just sucked it up and dealt with it, right? And especially our older veterans. But I've got an idea. Let's expose them to a chemical agent, Agent Orange, and let's expose them to hazardous waste of materials and environments. and stuff that cause cancer and all of this stuff and harm generations of babies and everything. But let's deny them because they never complained about it while they were in. And think about that. During that generation, you've got a lot of veterans during that generation, and I wouldn't say a whole lot, right, in the general consensus of things, but you have veterans that sucked it up and dealt with it, right? And especially our older veterans is what I'm getting at. They sucked it up and they dealt with it, and they don't have a paper trail. They don't have medical records or anything like that. And I know several right now that are battling cancer, and I am quite sure that Agent Orange didn't help that, right? And they are having a heck of a time trying to get their benefits. So I didn't know that that was absurdly generous, and these are guys with combat action badges, combat infantry badges on their DD-214 and stuff like that, that actually were in the jungle, right? Saw war, had to pick up dead bodies and all types of things that people won't have to experience here. And we're doing it in some of them back in the day didn't have a choice. They were told what they were doing. And then others as well too raised their right hand proudly and said, I will do that. And they left their families. I know me for years, I left my family as well too. I didn't spend time with them. I didn't see them. When you're gone for 9 months or a year at a time, that is 9 months to a year out of a veteran's time that they do not get back with their family. Okay, but that's absurdly generous, while you're enjoying your family, you critics and naysayers on Thanksgiving and Christmas and people who have never served. It really frustrates me. It really upsets me, right? Because half the people that we even get back from wars and stuff and go deal with, we don't even get the proper help now. I'll give you an example. I've tried to change primary care doctors. I've called people. I've messaged people over and over and over again. And if you ain't proactive on any of this stuff, you ain't getting the help that you need, and people aren't getting the help that they need with the benefits that they need. Tell the truth. you know we aren't doing the best job for our veterans to give them the help that they need. They got to jump through all types of hoops and have no idea about so many different routes that they could take for VA disability benefits. That's why all these videos are out here. That's why you watch all that stuff, CivDiv and all these other videos. You watch it. You watch Combat Craig and everything because you ain't getting the proper help. It's taking veterans coming out and having to make videos like this so that we can educate each other, and the VA and the government does not like it, and it's terrible. I don't agree with that at all. I don't agree with it at all. Okay. So the most recent call for cuts is a widely criticized opinion article in The Economist, right, on November 28th, that described veterans' disability benefits as absurdly generous. Experts told Task and Purpose, right, and I'm going to put this article in here, that the essay is representative of widespread public misperceptions that threaten to reduce veterans' compensation for service-connected health conditions. The Economist piece echoes an argument made by the Washington Post editorial board last year that limiting disability payments to veterans would help get America's financial house in order. There are many ways, many things, many other options that can get this, get our financial house in order. I got an idea. Let's stop, funding illegal immigrants and paying for their health care and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? Let's go to so many different things, that we're spending and wasting and throwing our money down the drain. Like, don't even get me started on lunches and dinners and conferences, where we pick our nose and scratch our ears. I don't understand that at all. Right. But these arguments may now have a real chance of becoming law. And I'm not trying to scare anyone. I'm just putting things out, and I'm talking about elephants in the room, maybe that people don't want to talk about. And I'm talking about things that are being talked about behind the scenes. Okay. So policies laid out, and I talked about this in a previous video in Project 2025, they touted as a blueprint for a second Donald Trump term, and that they would revamp the Department of Veterans Affairs with proposals to increase privatization, narrow the eligibility criteria for health benefits, and replace civil service style employees with political appointees in its rank. Produced by the Heritage Foundation think tank in Washington, D.C., the policy guide states that a growing number of health conditions that qualify for VA disability are tenuously related or wholly unrelated to military service. That's not true at all. There are things and there are opportunities, rightfully so, according to the 38 Code of Federal Regulations. And you got to go through quite a bit of hoops to be able to get those VA disabilities, and let's go back to this. Okay. You're saying they're absurdly generous. Let's go right back to you who's saying that. These things are in law. Like, unless it's fraud, I totally get that. Unless it's complete and utter fraud, right? You're lying about saying something and it never happened. I get that, right? And that could be taken away. But outside of that, right, you can secondary, you can ask for increases, you can try to get things connected, and the VA can say no or yes, and it's got to go through a process. We as veterans don't design this process. You, the government, design that. So what you need to do is go talk to them and figure that out. That's where there are veterans that get their ratings because they've done what they needed to do to get that rating, and they provided the medical evidence and everything to support what they're getting rated for. And many veterans don't work, and this is what they rely on for a living as well too, and they can't work because their injuries are so significant. But yeah, that's absurdly generous. My bad, because they raise their right hand and serve this country. No, there are other ways that you can look at to help with, and money that we've thrown down the drain as a country that can help with the budget as well too. Okay. In mid-November, President-elect Donald Trump has tapped Russell T. Vaught, one of the key players in Project 2025, to lead the Office of Management and Budget, a powerful federal post that oversees government spending. Patrick Murray, National Legislative Service Director for the Veterans of Foreign Wars office in D.C., views the Economist editorial as the latest example of an ongoing push to cut veterans' disability benefits. And he said more and more, it's becoming a trend that for some reason we need to go after disabled veterans and the absurdly generous benefits that we get, which I think is flat out bull. You know what, said Murray, a Marine veteran who lost his right leg in a September 2006 roadside bomb attack in Fallujah, Iraq. I can't get out of bed without the use of a prosthetic or a wheelchair. What in the world is absurd about my medical care and benefits? As President-elect Donald Trump prepares to take office again, reducing the size of government has been a leading theme. His top ally, Elon Musk, has vowed to cut government spending by as much as $2 trillion. Elon, you did not serve, so stay out of this. I think we have a new administration coming in saying everything is on the table, said David Shulkin, who served as VA Secretary from 2017 to 18 under Trump. We're going to relook at the definition of how government operates. We're going to focus on efficiency. I think that it's natural in a period where you're in a transition. You don't yet know the position of the political leaders coming in for these questions to be coming up. A lot of this stuff is hearsay, and it's just speaking, and it's just, trying to figure things out. But when Trump came in last time into office, we got a better helpline, and things moved along pretty good for veterans. So, and funds did open up as well too for veterans. So I would keep that in the back of your mind for any articles or anyone that's trying to scare you. Okay. But however, any attempt to reduce disability compensation would likely be met with a strong pushback from the American public, said Shulkin, who is now on the advisory board of Burn Pits 360, a nonprofit organization that helps veterans dealing with ailments stemming from toxic exposure. Shulkin noted that Senate Republicans came under intense criticism in 2022 when they initially blocked the PACT Act, which established 23 health conditions linked to toxic substance exposure during military service and expanded care for Vietnam veterans who are ill due to Agent Orange. Thank you. I'm so glad that passed. Shame on anyone who is trying to block that PACT Act. I got an idea again. Let's just jack the veteran, right? Representative Mark Takano, the ranking Democrat on the House Veterans Affairs Committee, said he has heard arguments in favor of cutting veterans' disability benefits many times. He argues that Republican lawmakers now want to reduce benefits and privatize VA healthcare under the guise of saving money. I can think of no greater responsibility as a nation than to care for those who have put their lives on the line to defend our freedoms, Takano said in a statement to Task and Purpose. Absolutely. We got to take care of those who said, I'm willing, raise their right hand, drafted or not, and have served this country. If you don't have anything wrong and you're good, then okay, you aren't getting any VA disability benefits. That's not what the conversation's about. But if you did, or if something happened or whatever, then you need to get what you can get, because you don't know how it's going to impact you occupationally and socially when you get out, right? People come back different. War leaves scars. People sometimes are not the same physically and are not performing the same tasks that they were doing because of specific injuries when they get out. And then their body as a whole is limited occupationally. Okay. So it's not just getting cash for the sake of cash, is something that I want to say. Disability compensation is a monthly tax-free payment that veterans can receive depending on whether they were injured, harmed, or became ill as a result of their service. Disability ratings are based on, again, percentage from 0 to 100, which is designed to indicate the severity of one's disability. I want to speak on something else here. When you do get money, what do you do with that money? Okay, maybe you save a little bit of it, but guess what you do? You spend and you put right back into the economy. So I'm trying to get the logic of this as well too. So now, if you do not get it, and you're telling me that you're trying to eliminate veteran homelessness, there's many veterans. That's just going to raise the number of suicides and veteran homelessness, where I thought that we were trying to help. But when you get paid as well too, you take that money and you put it right back into the economy. And with that money, you ultimately end up spending taxes, because you can't even use the bathroom without taking taxes in this country. You go and spend something, you go and buy something, you go and do something. There's sales tax. You've got property tax if you're not 100%, and on and on and on and on and on. You pay tolls. I can go on and on and on. You buy vehicles, there's tax. You buy clothes, there's tax. So you're putting the money right back into the economy as well too. That's what keeps the economy going as well too. But guess what? When you don't have any money as a disabled veteran, or as a veteran, or anyone, then you become on the government's dime. You become reliant. And there's a lot of homeless people who cannot work, and veterans being one of them. And then they're relying on government sources. So they become needing funds rather than putting into the economy. So why would you not want that? A healthy veteran society puts into the economy, puts it right back into the economy. And we serve this country, and we're taxpayers as well too. So, even while we're in, we're taxpayers. The only time we don't have to pay taxes is when we say we're going to go down range, raise our right hand, and we don't get taxes off in exchange for, let's get blown up. Let's get mortar rounds thrown over the fence. Let's just put our lives definitely at risk, and where many people have died. Right. But advocates say that they fight the perception that disability compensation is a free handout for veterans, many of whom have been exposed to toxins from burn pits and other sources, and are dealing with the physical and mental toll of more than 2 decades of war, constant deployments, and physically demanding and often dangerous training. VA disability compensation benefits are hard earned and deserved by veterans for their service and sacrifice for our country, said VA Undersecretary for Benefits Josh Jacobs, who added that VA services have been proven to keep veterans healthy, in a good financial shape, and at a lower risk of death by suicide. Many veterans and many Americans don't understand that disability compensation helps offset the financial burden that veterans face because of their injuries, Murray told Task and Purpose. For example, Murray often has to take a taxi or Uber to travel short distances that would just be a brisk walk for people who have to use both their legs. He also has a copay for his wheelchair. It's not just getting cash for the sake of cash, Murray said. Disability compensation covers more than combat wounds, he noted. Veterans can receive chronic injuries and ailments from their service. Murray also took issue with an argument made in the Economist story that disability benefits make veterans not want to get better, saying, I'd love to get my right leg back. Tell me how getting benefits incentivizes me not to get better. right? So the cuts would ultimately be devastating. The consequences of any reduction in veterans' disability benefits would be a lot of suffering, said Dan Clare, a spokesman for DAV, Disabled American Veterans, right? The DAV is very concerned about calls to cut disability compensation because the veterans' healthcare needs are tremendous after 2 decades of war, said DAV spokesman Dan Clare. We're talking about veterans who aren't able to work at their full capacity because of service-connected disabilities, Claire said. The inability to take care of your family is a huge issue. A lot of these people are counting on these benefits. That's how they are able to keep their homes, to keep their lives stable. Taking away those benefits or making arbitrary cuts in benefits would be devastating for our nation and our communities, right? I think there's way too much at stake to be treating this as a fiscal exercise. I'm going to reiterate that there's too much at stake to be treating this as a fiscal exercise. Okay. There is a growing civilian and military divide. Arguments in favor of cutting veterans' disability compensation have been growing since the PACT Act was signed in law in August 2022, said former Marine Major Kylie Hunter of the Rand Corporation. Critics of disability compensation tend to focus on the total amount of money that the VA spends on benefits without considering how many veterans have served during more than 20 years of war. Hunter told Task and Purpose. People are just looking at a number that is coming out and saying, oh, that just seems like a lot of money. A widespread misperception held by many of those who have not served is that veterans often game the system to get as many benefits as they can, even if they don't qualify for them, Hunter said. The reality is that service-connected injuries gets worse as veterans age, and health conditions stemming from military service can start to appear when veterans get older, all of which require more medical care over time. Look, if they don't deserve the benefit, or if they don't have it, or if they don't have service connection, you got to prove your point to the VA. If you don't have it, they're not going to give it to you anyway. So what are people talking about? You got to apply for them. It's not like, yeah, I'm looking at you and you're just going to get it. We got to jump through hoops, and we don't get the blueprint to the book. Many people are jacked up and didn't complain about things, and many people aren't getting paid for the things that they do need to get paid for because they just sucked it up and deal deal with it. So it's not just a simple thing. It's not that you just fill out a form and you're granted compensation. I do hope that folks understand that a little better. They might be less inclined to want to trim those benefits. I can also argue that the increase in VA spending for disability compensation is not a sign that the government is getting too big. Rather, it shows that veterans are finally getting the benefits that they're entitled to. There are so many veterans and older veterans that were exposed to chemical toxins and all that stuff, and are not getting any help. It is cheaper to pay for a veteran to get a flu vaccine than to pay for treating the flu in a 75-year-old person as well. Giving people top-notch health care is going to be more cost-effective than denying health care until they are sicker. That is the truth. And these veterans that are getting paid, it's not a ton, unless you're at 100%, you're making like $3,800, that's awesome. Like, awesome. That is great. But not everybody's at 100%. If you're getting 10 or 20%, that's $170 or $320. I mean, my goodness, that's going and paying your phone bill in exchange for your back being jacked up. If somebody's got a very bad back and degenerative disc disease and their range of motion is bad and it's just their back, that could be a 20% rating right there that pays you a whopping total of $320. It's more money than you had, and we're appreciative of it. But let's think about that. Let's think about that in exchange for a bad back, So it's very important to understand that, and it's essential to look at ways to improve how the VA provides service to veterans. Cutting disability benefits is not the solution, right? At all. I want people to know that. It's not. I am not for it. I think it's a bunch of junk, right? Unlike other federal benefits, veterans earn disability compensation through the injuries and illnesses they sustain while serving our country. And how are you impacted occupationally and socially? You may come back when you get out and not plan on it, right? But there's certain jobs that you cannot do and certain things that you're not doing because those injuries do catch up with you. And the, you know, and the general rule of thumb is that they do get worse as you age and as you get older. So, not trying to scare anyone, but I hope that this video helps someone. I want to thank you for your service to our country, and we need to keep raising awareness because People are chirping and there is a choir that is singing, and they need to be quiet because veterans benefits are under attack and it's not absurdly generous. If you can't get it, then they're going to tell you no. If you can get it and you do get it, then you've had to prove your point, and if the VA grants it, right, then you've provided the evidence that's needed. If it's fraudulent, the VA will take it away. But if you really look at the pay scale of things, like it's not really a ton of money. It's not like you can live off. If you're not 100%, even at 100% in today's economy in 2024 going into 25, that's not even enough to cover all your bills, but it is a huge help. And I think that's the least that we can do for veterans and their families, and I'm not just talking about financially, I'm talking about the benefits as well too. Why wouldn't a veteran deserve the benefits for sacrificing their freedom, their time with their family, and their life for this country? I hope that this helps you. This is good food for thought. The article is going to be in the description of this video. Like, subscribe, comment, share this out. If you need a Nexus or a DBQ and you stayed to the end of this video, check out Dr. Lopez, Dr. Sharma, check out Quality Nexus Letters. And if y'all need any help, reach out, info@veteransclaimservice.com. We can point you in the right direction. We just want to make sure that you honestly and integrally get the benefits that you deserve. Thank you for tuning in. Bye.